Board of Supervisors Finance and Audit Committee to order. We will be without Mr. Winfrey today, but we do have a quorum. So we will kick off this meeting with an audit kickoff presentation by PB Maris.
Great, so right into it.
This is Andrea Nichols, our main auditor.
Yes.
Andrea Nichols.
Hi, I'm Andrea Nichols. I'm out of our Harrisonburg office with PB Mayors. I have about 20 years of experience doing government auditing, and so I'm so pleased to be here with you this morning. I promise I'll be brief. I know that's one of the main considerations here. But so as we move through the PowerPoint, you'll see a lot of the information contained in the PowerPoint. There are things that you've heard before. So I won't go over every single word in the PowerPoint, but on the commitment slide, the one that I truly do want to point out to you is the direct access to the engagement partners. I'll go over the list of partners involved with the audit here in just a moment, but Mike and Betsy are just a phone call away. If you need them, you have access to them for any questions that arise during the year. And so they couldn't be here today, but they wanted me to communicate their commitment to you, their access if you should happen to need them. Our client services team, we have Mike Garber. He's the primary partner on the audit. Betsy Hedrick is the engagement partner for county schools, and then also Goochland Powhatan Community Service. Again, I'm Andrea. I'm, as Carla says, your main auditor. That means I'm the in charge, the senior manager on the audit, and so I am the person handling the day-to-day logistics, coordinating with all the departments, handling the flow of information as we move through the process. We also have Michael Corrali. He's the in charge for the Goochland Powhatan Community Services Board. And then we also have Antonina McAvoy. She is a partner with us as well. She has extensive cybersecurity experience. So as we move forward and cybersecurity becomes an ever-increasing risk, we have her on deck so that if there are any risks or concerns that are above the ability due to technical concerns or things like that, she is on deck for those types of questions. Audit committee oversight. We have certain professional standards that require us to communicate certain things to you. You'll see a lot of legalese in this language, but essentially it boils down to the fact that we need to communicate clearly with those charged with governance. What is the responsibility of the auditor regarding the financial statement audit, and then the planned scope and timing of the audit. We have already done a little bit of preliminary field work back in the spring. The bulk of our final field work will occur in the fall, and the question that's on everyone's minds that you always want me to report is, how is it going? Do you have any issues? Is everyone being cooperative? I am pleased to report we don't have any issues that we have identified thus far. If we did, we would communicate that to you immediately. As we move through the final phase of the audit, if we do have anything that arises, we don't like surprises. I know you don't like surprises. We would let you know before we get to that final issuance stage. And then yes, did you have a question? No, sorry. And then I'm very pleased to report that all departments that we're working with, and we're working with a lot of them, they're all very cooperative and organized, and the audit is on pace for timely completion. We also need to obtain from those charged with governance information relevant to the audit. So if you have information that you need to share with me that's important as we build our audit plan, please feel free to communicate any of those items. And then we also provide those charged with governance with timely observations arising from the audit that are significant and relevant to your responsibility to oversee the financial reporting process. So again, nothing to communicate as of yet, but if we did, we would let you know as soon as possible. Promote effective two-way communication between the auditor and those charged with governance. It's important that you know my face, I know your face. You have an avenue to get in touch with us. Carla knows how to get in touch with the entire audit team. And like I said, we're just a phone call or an email away. And then also to evaluate independence and assert to you that we are independent to perform the audit. Continuing, we have the scope of services. So this is just a description of when we talk about the audit, what are we talking about? So we're talking about the year ended June 30, 2025, and it's the financial statements of Goochland County, the financial statements of Goochland County Public Schools, and those combined form what we call the ACFR, the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And then we also have the financial statements of the Goochland Powhatan Community Services Board as of June 30, 2025, and that is issued in a separate report. We also have what we call the single audit. You might be more familiar with hearing federal compliance, federal grants, things like that. That's in accordance with Code Section 2 CFR 200, and this is your federal award testing for all the federal grants that you get. So our planned deliverables, after we move through the audit, we'll produce a number of documents and reports that will come to you at the end of the process. We'll have the audit reports for the county. We'll have the single audit report, so the audit report and required compliance reports. As of this year, you're what we call a low-risk auditee, meaning that you don't have any high-risk considerations in terms of your federal grants that would raise the level of testing that we would have to do. And then we also have a number of agreed-upon procedures reports. These are required by the Auditor of Public Accounts, and it's your Sheriff's Internal Control Report, your landfill certification, the APA transmittal agreed upon procedures report, and the data collection form related to the single audit. We also have an examination report required by the Auditor of Public Accounts over your VRS information. And then we would also communicate to you a control deficiency or management recommendations letter if we do have those types of recommendations. This would be more along the lines of things that don't rise to the level of seriousness to be reported in the actual report, but these would just be things that we would want to communicate to you because we feel like they're best practices or it's something worth you knowing. Our audit approach, we pride ourselves on having a very organized approach, and so we communicate audit requests in advance. We obtain an understanding of the county and schools, various departments. We do a risk assessment so that we take the information that we gather as we find out how do things work, and we see is what you're saying should be in place actually in place, and we take all of that information and we build our audit plan. And I do want to stress here that it's not a cookie cutter audit plan. We actually tailor it based on unique facts and circumstances and risks that we see at your locality. And then based on that risk assessment, we apply further audit procedures. We do various forms of testing. We evaluate our results, and then of course we deliver that to you. Along with our audit approach, controls are a very key part of that process. So part of what we do is that we review and understand the county's system of internal control. However, we need to stress that it's not undertaken for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the internal control, but we are required to obtain that understanding. We also are required by government auditing standards to gain an understanding and test internal control over financial reporting, compliance with laws, regulations, and provisions of contracts or grant agreements. And then 2 CFR 200, which again is the federal code, requires the auditor to perform procedures to obtain an understanding of internal control over federal programs. We're evaluating controls over a variety of departments and processes here. I won't read every single one, but we touch virtually every area of the county, every process, to make sure that we have a complete picture. The audit approach and risk assessment, as part of our procedures, we identify on a spectrum of risk what is the most risky, and then that's what we call a significant risk, and those are ones that we have to communicate to you. The first one, management override of controls, that's one that's present every year, and it's hard to get away from that one. That's a required risk that we need to communicate to you. And essentially what that is that management could override controls in order to commit fraudulent financial reporting or misappropriate assets. And then you can see our planned response in the far corner, or far column, talking about the procedures that we do to mitigate that risk. The second risk you'll see is a new one, and I want to stress it's not through anything that management did. This is related to the implementation of a new accounting standard. So anytime we have a new accounting standard, the implementation can be complex, and so we need to communicate that to you, that there is this standard coming, and these are the procedures that we have planned to mitigate that. I won't go over the details of GASB 101 compensated absences unless, you're having insomnia one night and you need more details. But in a nutshell, it could change the composition of the dollars that are reported in your compensated absences liability line. And management, both schools and county, they are all over it. They have a good plan in place to implement. So no concerns, we're just required to communicate to you. And then this is, I believe, the last slide of substance. Part of the purpose for today is also to perform fraud inquiries. So we need to identify and understand factors that can lead to fraudulent financial reporting. We need to assess the risk. We need to design and implement controls for prevention or detection. And then you can see the AICPA standards here talking about the guidance of assessing that financial statements are not materially misstated due to fraud, and then communicate to you again that management is responsible for implementing systems that prevent fraud. If you have any information for me regarding concerns, areas of known fraud, I'm here to listen to any of those. You're also happy to contact me anytime outside this session. But having said that, that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
May?
really?
Could you outline the next couple months? You did a spring audit, you're coming in September, kind of what happens October, November, when the board may expect to take action on the audit, what the audit committee may be doing. Just if you could outline that for the benefit of the public.
Absolutely, that is an excellent question, and I always like to start with the end date and work backwards. The end date is December 15th, 2025, and that is the state deadline that is put out by the Virginia Auditor of Public Accounts. That is the drop dead date where your financial statements must be issued in order to be considered timely, and then a copy of that needs to go to the Auditor of Public Accounts. Realistically, we like to have a good buffer in there so that we're not right up against the deadline. So the act for writing and review process will happen in the month of November, and the bulk of the testing and on-site field work will happen in September with various layers of review and quality control on our end back at our offices happening late September, early October. And then Carla, I don't know if there's any part of the process I'm not covering that you wanted to highlight, or does that hit it in a nutshell?
That hits it. I think they're scheduled to be here the 29th, the last day of September into the first day of October.
Is there
That whole week.
anything regarding board meeting timing that I might not be aware of that we need to communicate?
No, we usually try to present the audit at the December board meeting. So very, very early in December.
And the proximity to the APA deadline is kind of the context for that.
Right.
So, does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Follow-ups?
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Andrew, could you, just for the public's benefit, could you speak to the relationship between PB Mayors and Goochland County? It's been a strong historical relationship, but if you could speak to that.
Absolutely. We are so pleased to have been your auditors for a couple contracts now. And we found a very strong working relationship with management throughout all of the departments. We do have controls in place on our side to make sure that we're always giving you a fresh set of eyes. So we have in-charge rotation, we have partner rotation, we have various rotation of assignments internally. So even if the team is consistent from one year to the next, we're not having the same person always doing the same thing. So we find that very beneficial to make sure that we're giving you the highest quality audit possible, but then also retaining that relationship so that we're not coming in cold with no knowledge. We're able to build off of information that we've learned in previous years and then take the audit procedures to the next level.
Thank you.
Scoring well on these audits year after year, does that help us gain grants from the state and federal government?
It certainly puts you in a better position than if you had a lot of concerns. Speaking specifically to federal grants, the uniform guidance had a major change last year where now the federal entities, as part of the application evaluation process, are evaluating your control environments before they award you grants. And I would assume if you're getting pass-through grants from the state, that they would also be going through a similar process. So if you are a locality and you have a lot of issues, that will make the granting agencies take a second look at you. So having strong internal controls puts you in the best position in order to receive those.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we'll move to the approval of minutes from the May 6, 2025 meeting. Those minutes are shown on pages 2 and 3 of your packet. Any comments or questions on those minutes?
Put in a motion. I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they are approved. Next, we'll move on to what is on page 4 of your packet, the fiscal year 2025 fourth quarter projections. And Ms. Scape?
All right, now that June 30 has come and gone, we have a good look at where we will probably end up. We also work under a 45-day accrual period, so these aren't the final numbers. We're gonna still accrue back some tax revenue, some invoices that are still coming in to be paid, to be charged against FY25, but these are very close. So we're looking at coming in about $5 million higher, and well, $4.8 million higher than our budgeted revenue. A lot of that is due to Amazon. We had a $4 million spike in permit fees, which was great. In prior reporting, we had thought this might be even higher, but I think, I know that I was overestimating my personal property taxes coming in. I have learned since, with the help of Pam, that our business personal property is only collected in December. So I need to remember that for my projections for next year. But all in all, we're looking great on revenue. And on expenditures, very similar to what was reported last year, departments are turning in decent size amounts, mostly due to vacancies, but also due to where there's variety of reasons for these turnbacks, but about $4 million being turned back there. So an operating surplus of $13.8 million. And then once we fully fund our school capital projects, our capital projects through counties and schools, and our CSA fund, and here's a new line, I think we're getting a return from the building of the new GES. The schools did not need all the money that we transferred to them originally, so they'll be giving us back $1.25 million. So we're looking to put about $7.6 million back into our fund balance at the end of the year when all is said and done.
Any questions for Ms. Gibb? I would just note that we do have considerable CIP
Yes.
projects on the horizon. So while we always appreciate a return to the fund balance, we do have many projects to fund in the foreseeable future with those surpluses that we do see.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will move on to review possible updates to the financial policies. We did a review of the financial policies, and I think one consistent comment was, there was a desire to make it easier to read and interpret a number of these definitions in the policy. Mr. Lyle graciously offered to provide a number of comments, most specifically examples of how these calculations are done. We have communicated, and Mr. Lyle, please feel free to object to anything I say. We've communicated, and I think we are going to highlight that we have examples of these in the as an addendum to the policy. while still keeping the policy fairly streamlined, easy to leaf through, and not having I think some people are policy readers, some people digest it better with the numbers. And so now you have both options is the goal, and as much transparency into those calculations as we can provide. But I would note, I don't note any of the changes as dramatic. I would say they are being made for ease of digestion by constituents and anyone else who is to review Goochland's policies. Mr. Lyle, anything you would add?
Yeah, I just like English. Unfortunately, I've spent a fair amount in the private sector where both accountants and attorneys write for non-English speaking audiences, usually other accountants and other attorneys. So it just getting rid of some of the common law word salad. I mean, it's repetitive and nonsensical, but just declarative. The fewer words used, the easier usually it is to understand. So that was my goal.
Yep.
And then numbers. I think Mr. Spoonhour, last year, when we changed our reserve levels from 60 to, we changed the band.
Yes.
And his question was, well, how much are we missing it by? And we couldn't answer the question. We didn't know. And so I thought, well, we're missing by $1, or I think it was close to $5 million. So that was my thought. If you go back and again, some of the nomenclature, which is what is 2.5 of assessed value real estate with Goochland's current net debt. And so what's that work out to? It worked out to $147,124,452. So there's a number. So that was my goal. Where it is repositoried in an appendix, in the middle of the document, just as long as it's there.
Absolutely.
And it can be seen. I'm a function over format person anyway, so thank you for the opportunity to speak to it. I just like it simple because it's easier for me. So it's all about me.
If we do make that one last change in formatting, and of course, we might. We're always open to suggestions, further suggestions. But if we do, would you submit it back to the
Yes.
finance? I mean, it'll be temporarily adopted, I would guess, as a revised policy, or do we have to wait until we formalize that policy at the next?
So if y'all
audit
want to see
committee?
the final version of what we're describing, I can
Yes.
bring it back in December. That's
Uh-huh.
what we normally do. Or we can make a motion today to adopt it as presented with, I wrote a motion to be made today if
Yeah.
we'd rather do it this way. Can I make a motion and then we can talk about it?
Let's do this so we don't have the motion and then
Could be
get
confused.
confused. Can you just describe how you worded the motion?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a motion to adopt it as presented, but delete the tables that reference actual dollars within the policy. Instead, add a footer to every page that currently has a table saying examples of the reference policy can be found in the addendum attached. That way, the goal would be, I also was gonna remove any references to the county's revenue regulations. We just have a fee schedule, but I don't know of any revenue regulations. But the goal would be to not have to, we could keep the addendum updated with figures each year, but not have to re-adopt the policy every time we change the numbers.
Good point.
So the policy won't have to be re-adopted until we change the content.
And those will be, those historical numbers will be updated, I assume, with, shortly after we get audited financials every year?
Yep.
Okay. Wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to defend myself. I would not have invented the phrase, would you call them fiscal regulations or?
Revenue regulations.
I picked that up from somebody else. That's not something I'd have invented, so.
Okay.
I don't know what a revenue regulation is,
Okay.
but it must have been in the original document, so.
Okay. Sounds good. So, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, anything that the audit committee would do today would ultimately be reviewed by the full board at a future board meeting, is that correct?
Correct. Every time we update these, it usually goes to
That's
the full board.
Okay.
Always.
Well,
Should we entertain a motion?
we will entertain a motion, Ms. Cove.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the updated policy as presented with a change to add a footer to every page referencing actual dollars currently. The footer to state calculations from the most recent 5 years are included in addendum 1 to this policy. And also to remove references to the county's revenue regulations.
Second.
Okay. Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kay. Is there any other business from other board members or other committee members to discuss? Not aware of any? Do we have any public comment? Okay. Seeing all that, I will move to adjourn the meeting to our December 2nd, 2025 Finance and Audit Committee meeting, time TBD. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.